to all the panelists and all the attendees. Little bit of housekeeping before we get going. So as an attendee, you will only see the 5 of us, and you can only hear the 5 of us. All of your microphones are muted. And we've had a few questions posted to us in advance by people who can't be here, so I'll get us started with those. But when you do want to ask a question, please use the Q&A function within Zoom. Type in your question and we'll then ask it on your behalf. If you see a question on the Q&A that you really like, give it a thumbs up and it'll push it up to the top of the list, so we make sure we prioritize it, and we will get through as many questions as we possibly can. Hopefully you can all see the screens, but a quick introduction to our panelists, and a very big thank you from all of us at Good Salon Guide for their time. So we're very lucky to have Karine Jackson with us, who, of course, as well as being a salon owner in central London and an award-winning hairdresser, also is very much at the forefront of sustainability and the green eco-revolution in salons. And it'll be fascinating to kind of understand how we can continue that during lockdown and post-lockdown. Also Phil from the Hair Uncut Facebook community, as well as a lot more before that, and also currently. If you're not part of the Hair Uncut community, I strongly recommend you go on Facebook and join, because it is a fantastic resource and talking shop with some sensible people there, rather than a lot of what we see on the internet. Of course, we've got Linda and Alan Stewart, who are the founders of Rainbow Rooms International. Not that needs much introduction, but if you're south of the border, it's a 12 salon group, the largest in Scotland, and also they've got a very successful and professional academy. So if you're looking for training, I do strongly recommend them. And also, of course, Clair, who works with me at Good Salon Guide, doing all of our marketing, social media, and is fantastic at all of those things. So we'll get cracking. To start off, and this is I think a really good, solid, important question, which is that I think lots of clients are nervous about coming back into salon. I know a lot are desperate and banging on the doors, but I think there are many that are very nervous about coming back. And Linda and Alan, what would you salon owners, how they can deal with clients who are nervous?
What we're working on is just getting all our communication to the client. We're sort of constantly emailing them, updating them, posting on social media, but I think if we try and make it as clear as possible what we're doing to make their visit as safe as possible, that's about, I think, all you can do, really. I think a lot will be nervous, but I think there is a lot of people out there that actually are just so desperate to get their hair cut, they would do anything.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think the counter to the nervousness is those that are so keen to come in that they'll, there's some are breaking the rules. Yeah. Some hairdressers are breaking rules, and that doesn't help any of us. It doesn't help the professionalism of our industry in any way.
Do they, Linda and Alan, when you send out those emails regularly, do they respond and say thanks for that, and I'm glad you're in touch, and here's a question? I mean, does it encourage some good engagement? Yeah, so that's good. So they feel like they do respond.
We've had an awful lot of response, and just basically people, I think they just want to talk.
That's what I think.
They're frustrated with their hair, and they just want somebody to say, they're there, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Just hang on a bit longer.
Yeah.
And we'll get to you as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to make it as simple as possible. As step one, you know, we'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. Step two, we'll do this. Step three. So we're not making it long-winded. We're just saying you must wear a mask. You must, you know, phone us, tell us when you're outside. All of that stuff that's been, you know, going back and forward from America and Germany and all the places that have opened up. I mean, you keep looking at it and keep checking it and seeing if there's any little detail that could better it. But most of it is very samey, you know.
Yeah.
And you're better to try and keep it as short, you know, and succinct as possible, I think.
I think, and regularly, you know, short and succinct, but as you said, on a regular basis, rather than periodically really long-winded waffle. I think people just appreciate knowing that you're concerned and in touch with them.
Something I was quite shocked. I did a little call around to some of my really key clients, how many people, because I'm central London, won't come back in because they'd have to use public transport. You now can't park. It's £15 to come in. So I've quickly put a survey together to go out to all of our clients just to gauge, you know, how they're feeling about coming into central London, which was a hot spot. So I think that's important if you're in an area, how people are going to get to you, because I was shocked at some of the people that said that they really want to come back, but they're not going to because they live in Oxford and things like that. So having to rethink central London is going to be a big challenge for us.
A really good point raised by David, Anthony, which is that, of course, since GDPR, where lots of people have opted out of various means of communication like text and email, and of course now perhaps they'll be more willing to let us keep their details because it's a very good reason for us to do so. So there are pros to every situation.
We've found, just as a marketing tool, it's been brilliant because all the emails we get, if there's a specific question, we try and get the salon or the stylist to answer it personally, and it sort of blows the clients away that they're actually not just getting an answer, but they're getting a personalised answer.
I think that's
it's
really
like turning it into an opportunity, you know.
I think it's been really important, the communication with clients. Every single email that I get through, I've answered personally, because I think to keep engagement with the clients really important right now, and I'm letting them know that we're thinking about them and we're taking all the right steps. It's good business sense, and when you have a little bit more time, not that much more time, but a little bit more time to do it, it's important.
I think it's good because building those relationships will actually be positive for your business long term. You know, you've actually invested some time in developing those, and that will reap benefits anyway, you know. So it's been quite as we found at Good Salon Guide, you know, it's given us an opportunity to provide a service that has been you know, we haven't had to do that before, but because we have, it's shown us in a new light, which is a really positive thing for a lot of businesses, I think.
I know lots of salon owners are worried that, you know, everybody's going to, assuming in England we open on the 4th of July, and in, you know, Scotland and Wales, whenever that is, and and in the Republic of Ireland at the 20th of July. I know a lot of salon owners are concerned that everybody's going to want to come in and be on that so-called priority list and be the first people in the door. And that if they're not the first people in the door, they'll perceive that they're not important. And then there's the risk of them wandering. And I think what you're all saying here about regular communication from either the owner or the stylist is absolutely key to keeping that loyalty.
Definitely.
A little point on that.
I don't think they'll have far to wander because every salon is going to be
the same,
So I don't think they'll be able to be One thing that I have been looking at, and negotiating with my accountant as well, because I think this is opportunity for hair salons to take more ownership and be more valued out there. You know, we finally realized every time you turn the TV on or put the radio on, they're talking about getting their hair done. So what I want to make sure, and now we're going to have looking at what other countries are doing, our slots, and we're not going to be able to have somebody in between in the salon. And it's how do we afford this? And I've watched Toby Dicker do the hourly booking appointments, and I actually think now's the time for change. And you know, we want to not overcharge, definitely, but we want to value who we are and what we do. And so we're looking at charging hourly, and then charging for color on top of that. And you know, what they're using, you know, you've got the client, we're very eco-friendly, but then we'll have a client that wants 4 towels used on their head. It's unnecessary. So it's like, well, every client will get their eco towel. If you want 4, then you pay for that extra. Because, you know, one thing I've been talking with my team about is, why should we be picking this up as an industry? If you went anywhere else, you'd be paying for it. So I think now's a good time for us to say, we are here for you 100%. We're going to support you all the way, but you have to value us a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Oh, we lost Gareth there.
I mean, it was interesting before the lockdown. Some of our suburban salons were absolutely packed.
Right.
But the town salons, people were, it wasn't noticeable then. It's okay looking back and saying, why was that? And it was because people were choosing to go more locally
Right.
to our other salons. And we knew that because when you went into the computer, you could see which salon they went to. So that was interesting, and I think it's one to watch when we do get the go ahead to reopen. You know, whether that will still be a thing, or whether people will feel safe depending on the communication. But it definitely was a thing before the lockdown.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I do think people are going to shop more local. They've spent a lot of time in their own communities now, in their own villages, and I really do think, you know, that the city centre is going to change dramatically. Maybe not forever, but definitely, you know, for a good few years. I'm very nervous about that because I'm solely based in the centre, and I think it's something that, you know, we're going to have to quickly pivot and change our business concept or ideas to deal with that.
I think the working from home, there's going to be they reckon about 30% of people will never go back to an office. Because they've been so used to working from home. And apparently they've been 25% more productive.
Yeah, they have. We talked about this on the last webinar. Yeah. And I think that I think
the town salons will be busy, but it will be a different type of clientele.
Will you be using any tools like Zoom? You know, there's a lot of talk that hairdressers might use certain tools, you know, what you're saying, Alan, online tools to do things like consultations. So, you know, you can maybe use Zoom to kind of talk to the client first, particularly if they want an entire hair makeover, to limit the time that they're actually then in the salon. So utilize technology to do some of the work that you do, and so they're not kind of hanging around so much, which is what people are fearful of. Will you be employing sort of technology to do that?
That's a definite way forward. I think that would cut an awful lot of consultation time down. I mean, it's going to be difficult with walk-ins, which our town salons were used to. I don't think we're going to be able to do that.
No.
But what we can do is we can send them away and say, no, you're going to have to phone, and if you're wanting colour done, then we'll do a Zoom meeting with you, or, you know, be online or whatever it takes. I haven't quite finalised it yet, but it definitely is going to be a thing that's done in salons going forward. Without a doubt, I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good training tool in your training academies. We said last time, we found that I work with some training providers, and we have found that educating our learners via Zoom, they've been more productive. They've worked their own way. They've kind of had to manage themselves, which isn't a bad thing. They've taken independently, you know, they've got to manage their own time. They've got to be constructive. They've got to meet targets without being in that environment where everyone's pushing them, which is good because it motivates them to sort of run their column and be more proactive. And we found that the level of learning they've achieved and the amounts that they've got through on their work modules has actually increased. So that's been positive.
Yeah, and just to echo what Linda said at the beginning, I think the communication and the relevant messaging and sort of drip feeding that through, as Claire alluded to as well, you know, on a regular basis, it's important to keep those messaging going through social media, through emails, through text, through phone calls, because there's an awful lot for a salon to communicate to the client.
And it's funny you say that, Phil, because we're looking at the questions here, and somebody has just said, which is what we said, that whereas, as Linda and Alan said, it's great to spend time talking to people, but a lot of salon owners are still time pressed, and they're saying that when you actually do talk to the clients, they're so desperate for a chat, you know, you can't get off the phone, and you don't want to be rude.
That's right.
People are like, hey, how are you? And you've still got to manage your time. And, you know, some guys just commented now that it's great to be friendly and to keep engaged, but you've still got, away from the salon, a lot of work you've got to get through. And it's sort of trying to be friendly and polite, but actually curtail those conversations a bit.
Yeah, and I think it's a really lovely touch as well, particularly for the salon owner or for a stylist to be able to have the conversation with the client. But I think, again, you're right, it's incredibly time consuming when people haven't spoken to you, they miss you, they want to chat, and you have to call your next 400 clients. It's very difficult. It's a difficult one, I think.
I think it's going to be interesting to manage that one as well, because what we've been doing is building a client waiting list, and then I email them back and say, you know, we'll give you a call. And the clients that do call anyway, and you're chatting away to them, and you want to talk to them, that's our job. It's the important part. But I think I am going to have to not call my own clients, but call one of the other team, and one of the team call mine. Otherwise, it will take me a month to get through it.
Definitely.
It's quite interesting because, that's quite interesting because we did the maths on it, and we had a Zoom meeting with the directors, and I said, you realise that 1,000 clients, 3 minutes a call, you're going to be there for 50 odd hours. Oh, right.
That's a lot of talking time.
I said, so it has to be 3 minutes, no longer.
That's
so I think you're better being up front with the client and saying, look, I've got 3 minutes to book you in. So once this buzzer goes, that's it. I'm not being rude, but I've only got 3 minutes. So what would you like done?
No, it's true. It's true.
It's interesting. I was just seeing David's questions here, and that's one thing we're discussing in our team meetings about how we touched on this earlier about the Zoom consultations, and we're going to struggle with that, and we're trying to come up with an idea because we do a lot of perming, and we have done for a good few years, but what we do is we strand test, so we cut a little piece out and we test it, and my team's like, how are we still going to do this? And it's trying to overcome these little obstacles that we're going to have. But I do think the initial Zoom consultation, David, is going to be really the way forward.
Yes. And again, I think it's sort of working out, as Karine said, how an effective Zoom consultation can work, because again, that's incredibly time consuming. You know, if you had to Zoom call all of your clients, you know, maybe if it's just your color corrections or the clients that have maybe used box eye, but that is incredibly time consuming for businesses, I think.
Can I ask, one of the things we've been getting a lot of questions about at Good Salon Guide, and obviously we've got Karine here, and you're our eco ambassador at the Guide. So many people who have spent a lot of time and effort sort of investing in their salons to make them eco-friendly, and do everything they can, are genuinely distressed, anxious and confused as to what the PPE will mean in terms of the impact on the environment. And many of our members have rung us, called us, and they've got some of their own ideas, which tend to be using, you know, cloth masks and buying more gowns and being extremely diligent in the washing and the hygiene, because that would seem to be, perhaps, I don't know, one of the only ways forward. I mean, you've obviously committed to being an eco-friendly salon, Karine, for many years. What are you going to do so you don't compromise your credentials?
This is one of my biggest concerns at the moment, and not just for our industry, but globally. You know, they're saying all the climate reduction from the not traveling and the flights, and it is amazing. You know, I'm in central London, you can hear the birds, and you know, you can see the skyline, but it's all the waste that's going to be produced from plastic gowns, plastic gloves, things like that, that's going to create more methane and a bigger problem in the end. So I've been doing a little bit of work with Anne Butterley at Easy Dry, and she's come up with these cotton 100% combustible, and I think that's the word people need to be looking at, because biodegradable can still take 1,000 years. You've got to look at the word combustible. Is it going to break down quite quickly? And you would put this filter underneath your own mask when you come in, actually. Not that I meant to do it, but it is sitting here somewhere. So we're looking at something like that to go underneath your own
cloth,
reusable cloth mask.
Yeah.
She also sent me through, and I'm going to talk to her, she's probably going to kill me for this, but a gown, and this is made out of cornstarch, which is going to break down, but I don't know, I want something a bit more glamorous. So I'm all about being eco, but we need
What does that look like, Karine? Let's have a look at that, if you unfold that.
So this is just a prototype. Anne's probably going to kill me for showing it up early, but never mind.
Yeah, I think it'll be of interest.
Go over the top, but you know, we've got beautiful cotton gowns that everybody wears. So I'm just looking at a way we can get around it, because the cotton gowns are going to have to be washed in 60-degree heat. I mean, we wash our gowns anyway after every single client, but not in 60 degrees, which is just going to be astronomical to your bills. It's going to have an effect on the environment, things like that. So, you know, if anybody's out there with some other ideas, but the other thing is, as well as cleaning, you know, we've got to be so careful. The chemicals we use in cleaning are just outrageous. So, you know, we tend to use a lot of vinegar and things like that. So I'm looking at different companies at the moment where they'll come in and steam clean overnight the salons, or you can just barbicide everything down. Or it's just, we need to get more companies taking responsibility for what they're selling us for it to work. So I've become a bit of a pain in the bum letter writer, saying, you know, what can you do that's better for us at this time? But at the moment, you know, they're talking about climate change, but they're not doing anything about the impact of the new wave of waste.
Yeah, but it sounds like the masks that go underneath the cloth masks could be a really positive thing. Are they available now for salons to purchase, Karine, those?
I need to check. Anne sent them over for me to have a look at. And I'm going to speak to her after this. So
let us know, because I think a lot of people would be really interested in those, because it's a practical solution. And in terms of your own salons, what sort of, you know, what measures have you already put into place with a view to opening on July the 4th? Have you gone down the road? I don't know if anybody saw, there was a big piece on ITV, it was in the Telegraph, and it was also in the Sun, a salon in Amersham. I know you probably saw it, Phil, Gatsby and Miller.
Yes.
And they were, I mean, I think they've taken very, very, very many measures. There's a lot of perspex in there, isn't there, Phil, from what I saw on the TV?
There is, yes.
And I guess they focus, it's a L'Oreal salon, and L'Oreal were explaining that this is what one salon has, big salon. But I think when when a lot of people saw that, there was quite a lot of concern and unrest. I know some of your members said that, Phil, and other sort of online groups were frightened because they seemed to think that was government stipulation to do it to that extreme level. It isn't, is it? It's just a choice they've made.
I can answer something on that. I've seen that and I was a little bit shocked. I think the perspex, firstly, I find it alienating, and I think it's really hairdresser, you know, to segregate all of us. But if you do a little bit more research into it, if you cough or sneeze, that germ sticks to the perspex. And if you don't clean that 100% properly in between every single client, the germs are still there. So I've taken the view of removing 6 sections, which is a big step to take in the salon. And what we're doing, rather than that, there's now literally 2 sections in between each person. We have 12 sections. And we're opening from 7 a.m. till 9:30 with 2 separate shifts. So one shift comes in from 7:30 to 1. They're going to work 6 days a week until we have a vaccine. This is all, you know, post-lockdown, pre-vaccine that we have to do this. And then we'll do a deep clean in between, and then we have a second shift come in. So if one shift gets ill, it doesn't bring down the whole salon. It's only bringing down half the salon. So I'd have to self-isolate if we go with what the government recommendation is at the moment, that, you know, once you've been in contact, we'd have to shut down that side of the salon. I think that's a nicer and safer way for me. That's my personal view on reopening. Putting big plastic sheets in between everyone. It's just not good for the planet. It's not good for the soul, I don't think. Yeah.
In answer, it's nice to touch base with what some of our people are saying. And Joanne Gilder, who I know quite well, who's a very eco-friendly salon, has got a couple of good questions. But just a good point from Nikki Cook. She says that she's purchased a washing machine. Talking about what you said, Karine, the environmental, it does a steam wash, and steam cleaning is a really good environmental option. So that could be, you know, to ensure you've got a machine that will do that. Probably you don't have to, as you say, use that high temperature, but the steam clean will be more efficient. Now, Joanne has asked us this before. How do you intend to dispose of all your PPE due to the fact that we're dealing with clinical waste? Has anybody got anything to answer? As I say, we've been asked that by Joanne.
That's a big question, a good one, I think. We have a clinical waste bin because we have a beauty salon. But I have been looking into, there's different companies out there now providing clinical waste bins. But I'd really love to challenge a company to come in and service all salons in the area and take the waste away.
Yeah.
Because it could be infectious as well. So, you know, things gotta be thinking about. Yeah.
I think.
Sorry, Phil, go on.
Sorry, I think also that the important thing is, which we've got very little clarity on what we should and shouldn't be doing. And whilst there's salons that are taking measures and putting things in place in terms of perspex screens or PPE or taking clients' temperatures, whatever it may be, there's an absolute distinct lack of clarity on what hairdressing salons in the UK should be doing or possibly will have to do, and that's the bigger issue, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that clarity will come? Do you think nearer the time there will be some clarity then? Because it's quite late.
I do, personally. I think there will be, Yeah,
I don't think there'll be enough clarity, and that's where we have to look at what other countries are doing. And take a common sense view on it, because I don't think there's been very good clarity throughout the entire pandemic. So why would it change now?
I mean, you've got the government guidelines just for, you know, shops in general, and I don't think they're going to go to every single industry and every different type of retail shop and write specific guidelines. I just don't see it. I think they're looking for everybody to have their own interpretation.
Each industry.
Each industry.
Yeah. And
so it's maybe up to our bodies to put something together that would be guidelines.
Yeah. Another question from Joanne is, how are you going to manage skin testing? And she says, more importantly, strand testing prior to opening.
So for us, skin testing is really easy. Our company that we use, Organic Colour Systems, gives us a little kit that we can send out to clients, which we've been using for years. And that actually, it lasts them about 4 or 5 visits. So most of our clients have got this already, and anyone new, we just post that out to them. It's something we've always done. It's the strand testing that's concerning me. Do we get the client to send the piece in? Do we get them to come in and we cut it out? Or do I have, you know, somebody specifically just doing that so we can strand test? We're still debating that one at the minute. But yeah.
Okay. Now, another person has asked, we're back to this, and this is an interesting thing. And I think, you know, PPE is going to be a dominant subject, but different kind of points of it. And a very good question from someone, and I'd be interested to know your thoughts. How are you going to cover the cost of, you know, the modifying of the salons and your PPE equipment? It's costly. Are you going to, as salon owners, think about a flat increase in charge per service, or a percentage on an overall service charge? I mean, I guess the costs have got to be met somewhere. So, Linda and Alan, have you thought about how you're going to cover these costs?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, every business is different, but I think as a group, we've decided that it would be better to put on some sort of supplementary charge that will be there until it reverses.
Really?
But what I've done is, because different salons, because of the layout and because of the sizes, I mean, we're lucky, we've got some salons that are, well, one in Royal Exchange Square, 6,500 square feet, so we've got room. But we do have other salons that are maybe only 1,000, 1,500 square feet. So it's going to be tighter to, you know, do the social distancing. So with some salons we have, and we're getting manufactured at the moment, we are putting screens in.
All right.
Just to try and maximise. What we thought about doing is actually having like holding bays, you know, like if you do have a colour, and once that colour is done, you want maybe to put them into like a holding bay. So we're just trying to make sort of safe spaces.
Yeah.
It's trying to get the salon flow. How can you do enough clients but do it safely?
I think one of the most important things that, you know, I sort of considered immediately is, how do you bring the stylist back into the salon when it's a commission-based industry, and then make sure that they're going to be earning the same kind of money that they earned before this pandemic started.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at it that way, it's important to be able to not convince, but show the stylist, you know, how the changes that you're making, they will actually end up having the same wage that they used to have. I mean, okay, things go up and down, but on average, you know, a good hairdresser has an excellent wage. So I think it's working all that out for them and saying, look, if we have to split your hours this way, then I've worked out how many clients you can do within that time. And your average bill is this, so you're not going to have any white spaces, because I think that's the positive that will come out of this. You know, in every 4 weeks you always have a lull. Expression, but a crap week, you know. Everybody goes, oh God, you know, and they all start slitting their wrists and think their clients have left them, you know. And then of course the 4th week, when it's payday, you know, everybody's trying to get in that 1 week, you know, and everybody's overworked. I think that it'll go back the whole, I mean, I can remember, you know, as an apprentice, it was very regimented. It was, you know, clients weren't late, you know. Clients booked 6 weeks, they went out and boom, the booking was in. And it's changed. All of that's changed because hairdressing got faster. And apprentices could do an awful lot more skilled work because as hairdressers we became much more efficient at training. So the whole thing speeded up. If you take from the mid-70s right through the 80s, through the punk era, everything started to go on, you know, hundreds of clients coming through your salon, boom time. And I think the positive that will come out of this will be, it won't be the sort of, you're mobbed one day and quiet the next day. I think it will be a very sort of steady process. At least that's, you know, that's what I'm hoping for that comes out of this. But I think there's a reasonable chance that it will, you know, if handled properly.
Back to what we're charging for the PPE. That was the question.
Well, sorry, but it'll be.
Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
What we've done is we've asked them all to price up each individual salon, what masks, visors, screens, disposable towels, all the added sort of barbicide, different cleaning products, and work that out over 3 months. How much is that going to cost for a 3-month period, divided by the number of clients that they've worked out on all their different working schedules and rotas. And if you divide it, that gives you the true cost that it's costing per client. So we'll do that and just add that on. We've already put our prices up at the beginning of the year, which we always do because that's when we reset targets. We know the minimum wage is going to change. So we've already had quite a big price increase at the beginning of the year, but we have still worked it back that, in fact, we won't be any worse off, even sort of having to stagger appointments, maybe taking more time. A lot of the colour bills will be greater because you're having to use more product, you know. So our system allows that. All the colours for prices are from, the price will be quoted to the client for a colour. So I think doing this charge that the client can see but will come back off when necessary.
It's interesting that Alan was saying there that, you know, it sounds like and there's another question related to this, it sounds like you're keeping your stylist very much in the loop, you know, which is very important. I think we've talked about, you know, talking to all the clients regularly, but when you said, Alan, you know, you've made it clear to them that there's going to be, not to get concerned about their takings, there's going to be, as you say, a more consistent level of business. And so before I ask the question that somebody's asked here, I mean, you know, the apprehension that clients are feeling coming into the salon, probably some of your team members have, you know, everybody takes the seriousness of the pandemic differently. So, you know, you might have stylists that are very nervous about coming back. I mean, what are you doing to cope with, and the fact that they haven't been working for 10 weeks, maybe we've got something in the pipeline of Good Salon Guide, but how are you getting them kind of fit to go back to work and allaying any fears that they have about, God, am I going to be safe? What are you doing? Because they're your most valuable asset, aren't they, your team?
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing is we're working through all the risk assessments, and we've said that each team have to involve their whole team in working out the risk assessments and how that's going to be managed. And I think having them as part of the process helps. You know, it's not like we're going to suddenly do an induction day and we're telling them, you're making them part of it. We've been working on different manuals for clients, and we've also done like wellness and action plan. Just done a stress and wellbeing policy. All that will be going out to the team
Yeah,
And
good.
what we were doing before all this started, we had quite a big focus on stress and well-being and mental health. And we've been working with another agency in Glasgow. Some of our team have been trained, but we're going to do training to all the directors, all the managers, and that was scheduled for April, so that didn't happen. But also we've got an EAP policy that we're going to put into place, which has come from our insurance company, and you pay, it's like a plan, and each person will have X amount of counselling sessions if necessary, and they've got helplines, they've got tools if anybody is feeling any stress.
So the helpline, can I just clarify that, Linda? So you will have a helpline that your stylist can call?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a bit like some like a health sort of insurance that you're taking, but this is specifically just for mental well-being and also for stress and for financial worries.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cost a lot, this policy. I mean, it works out less than £10 per employee per year, and they get, I think it's up to maybe 3 or 4 different one-to-one counselling services.
That's fantastic.
Face-to-face, and also there's different helplines. So it was something that we were just about to set up before we went on lockdown. So we're going to have that in place for July.
Good. That's excellent.
But I think something like that even now is,
I think it's critical moving forwards, you know, because we don't really know what the new normal is going to be, how long people will live in a way that's alien to them. And so long-term provision that you've got like that will be, I think, a very, very valuable asset, you know. What are you going to do? A question here says, so we've already been asked this a lot. If your stylist's, an anonymous question, is going to work longer or different hours to normal, are you going to have to amend their contracts?
My team's hours are changing, so we will be amending. But this is, you know, they use that word, unprecedented times. For my team, we've discussed how this could work. And we have a, like I said earlier, post-lockdown, pre-vaccine, and then post-vaccine. So, you know, once the vaccine's in place and the pandemic's under control, then we would go back to, well, the new normal of working. But my team have been with me all the way on deciding, you know, how we're going to reopen. And at the moment, they're quite happy, even though they're going to be working 6 days. It's only 6-hour shifts. So they're going to be working less hours to begin. But we worked out there won't be a lunch break in there because it's only 6 hours. And looking at the wait list, we're hoping for the, you know, first 4 weeks, and then it's up to them to keep the flow of the clients until we have a vaccine. So we worked out that they should be able to earn more money, work less hours, and have, you know, a better mental state. So that's what we're working towards. That's our goals at the minute.
Good. Now, Linda, I thought this might happen. A lot of people are extremely interested to find out more information about this support insurer. Somebody, David Anthony, says the company sounds excellent. I thought we'd get that response. So what we'll do is we'll liaise with you after, Linda, and you can provide us some details on that. And we will, just so that everybody's asking questions about that, we will share the information. I think it's a really valid point. As you said, prior to lockdown, I was booked on what they call a mental health first aiders course. And I was going to become a trainer, and we were going to offer day courses in, I stress, mental health first aid for our Good Salon Guide members, so that you would be equipped to be a mental health first aider in your salon. What that means is that you're not equipped to deliver, obviously, counselling, therapy, but you're very well positioned to spot potential problems with your staff and keep them safe, like you would as a physical first aider, until expert help can be found. Really important. And I think, you know, it's encouraging to see that services like that are clearly in demand in in all industries, but I think particularly in hairdressing for lots of reasons. So it is something that we plan, as you know, as you were saying, pre-lockdown, we had it all scheduled and it was going to go ahead. I mean, Phil, do you find in your community that people are getting particularly stressed and anxious and have found the stress of their businesses being shut for this long is having an impact on their mental well-being?
Absolutely. I think it's the stylists, it's the salon owners, it's the assistants. You know, I think it's put so much pressure and uncertainty, and it's made everybody incredibly anxious. And I think, you know, we are going to face issues with that when we do return to work. And it's like, you know, it's like everybody said on this call, is trying to manage that so that people do feel safe, they do feel able that they have the support, they can talk to somebody if it's a helpline. I think that's brilliant. I really think that's important.
I think so. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that. And I think, you know, just generally having an open door policy, I guess, with your staff and making sure, I know, you know, there's a lot of tools and we've talked about companies and mechanisms, but maybe just the old-fashioned simple thing that before we had these, that your door is open and that you're accessible as a boss to talk to people and be there to support them, because I think it's an issue that's going to be quite relevant. Yeah, I'm just checking any more questions. Is there anything else any of you guys are particularly, you know, have been particularly busy doing, or something that you think you've done that you'd like to share that might help some other people within our industry?
I think there's something, Linda mentioned it a bit earlier, that and I've just been doing a little social experiment with my hair, seeing what it looks like without colour. I'm definitely recoloring my hair. But so many clients are going to come back in with roots that are a lot more, so you're going to be using a lot more colour. And that's something that, as a team, we consider. So we've looked into this company called Vish Salons. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. We're going to measure the colour from now on.
Yeah.
And rather than saying, oh, you've got thick hair, so we're going to charge you more, we just charge for the amount of colour that we use. And that's come from all of us as the team, that we thought that would be a good way of, you know, making sure it's fair to everybody, because as Alan and Linda said, our prices, you've got to allow for it. We shouldn't have to absorb the prices. So how do we do it in a fair way? And so that's as well as breaking down what PPE we need to use, we're also going to be just breaking down how much product we use on each client.
Actually, it's really interesting you say that. I don't know where Gareth has gone. I'm sure he's having technical issues, so I'm sorry you're hearing a lot more of me. But yeah, I think we have been contacted by Vish, Karine. It's really interesting you mentioned that. I think that we've been contacted by them this week, and it's something we're looking at. I wish Gareth was here to confirm with our members. But can you just clarify, because I wasn't sure when I got the email, it's a means of weighing colour then, so that the client is charged specifically for the amount they use?
Well, not necessarily, but this is where I've pushed them a little bit over the last few weeks. Because I'm all about sustainability, and one of the things that we ironed out was wastage in the salon. So when they first approached me, I said, well, I know my team don't waste colour, because that's something we play a game with. It's part of our ethos and ethics. I said, but if we were to go back, and I went back to the team and I mentioned this, and they like the idea of weighing it because they want to see a little bit competitive like most hairdressers. So I went back to them and said, but what if we could then link it with the system to weigh up how much you've used and put a value to that? And then that's what the client would be charged. So they're in the final stages of having that ready for us. And I think this is where any company you work with, it's good to challenge them to make it also work for you, because they're happy to adjust and make things happen. So
I think that goes back to when you talk to clients and you do things like focus groups with clients, they want everything with their service to be very transparent. And that's a fantastic way that this, to me, is the beauty of what you're talking about with that. Clients like to see what they're paying for and don't like to think they're being had over, you know, or there's these hidden costs, which I don't know why, but perhaps in the hair industry, people have felt. I mean, there's been a lot of campaigning for itemized bills because you know, what are they? You don't go to a restaurant and not get an itemised bill. So the transparency of that, I think, would very much appeal, and the sustainability that you only use what you need.
And so orders for you as well. So you put in, you know, you've used a 6 and an 8, and you've used, you know, 20 grams of this and 20 grams of that. So your system will know exactly what you've used and what wastage you have at the end. But the itemised bill, I think, now's our time to do that.
Yeah.
I think that we should have always been doing, and my team and I, that's the analogy we've been using. You go into a restaurant, if you want 3 starters, great, have 3 starters, but you're going to pay for 3.
Yeah. I think for a long time clients have wanted that. There needs to be more transparency in the industry, and again, you know, looking to what you know, Alan alluded to, perhaps out of all some of these appalling situations we've had to endure, good practices will come through, which I think will be very positive for our industry. And as you said, Karine, and we could maybe talk about that. I mean, I think we've always got a problem, and now's the time. I work for training companies a lot. We've got a real problem with attracting young people into the industry. Karine and I have talked about this because we have learners with Karine. And I think when, you know, Linda and Alan alluded to the fact that there has been a lot of press coverage based on the fact that hairdressers are one of the groups of people that have been most sorely missed. And it's time to capitalise on that, young people, and say, you know, we're not just there doing a frilly, you know, frivolous, like going to hairdressing if you're not really able to do anything else. We're actually fulfilling a valuable need, and we're boosting the psychological well-being of people, because we know that because they haven't been able to have their hair done, it's really affected the morale, hence people doing whatever it takes to kind of try and get roots and cuts, because clearly, you know, looking good and feeling good are totally linked. So it's a time, I think, to sort of celebrate our industry and, you know, get young people. I don't know how we do that. It's an ongoing issue, driving young people into the industry, but at least we've seen hairdressers now in a different light, maybe. Do you agree?
Definitely.
Oh,
and I think
definitely.
our time to see this, and let's, you know, up our standards, up our professionalism, and, you know, show young people coming into the workforce that this is a creative, fun, exciting industry to be in. And, you know, we're out there helping so many people, and it's very clear now that it's almost impossible to have gotten away with not hearing a TV presenter or radio presenter or somebody talking about their hair.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know,
and they're quite fixated with Nicola Sturgeon's hair as well.
Oh right, yes.
It's on our media all the time.
Oh really? So what are they saying? Has she managed to maintain her hair? She's got very short cut, hasn't she?
She's got very short hair, and they keep saying, oh, yeah, there's all this press that she's had it cut by a hairdresser, and she's saying, well, any hairdresser that knows, no, it's not a professional job. She said, I've got a boyish cut and I just snip away at it.
Oh, how funny. How
of course she does.
I don't think she would.
I know. That's...
yeah, I mean, the amount of publicity for our trade is incredible. It's given us so much more kudos. You know, we are... become so important, but also I was also saying, with all these rainbows, and our name's Rainbow Room, and I'm like,
I know.
Every time you turn on the TV, there's either somebody needing their hair cut or there's a rainbow.
It's been fantastic for you, hasn't it? Really good for you. Really good for you. What's the latest thoughts on opening in Scotland, Linda and Alan? Tell us that.
Yeah, they haven't given us a date. I mean, all we're sort of going by is we're maybe a couple of weeks behind England, so we're definitely not going to open before the 4th of July.
Right.
But if the numbers come down in Scotland, we might catch up. So we've told everybody earliest is 4th of July, or it could be near the end of July. Yeah. But we don't know.
No, you don't know at all. No.
She's really not giving anything away. She said, I won't be pushed, and I'm not going to give any dates.
No. No,
which is
so
frustrating.
it is
You'd
very
like a day.
frustrating. I think it's, as we said, you know, it's the uncertainty. It really is the uncertainty that is causing, you know, a lot of angst for people. But I think, you know, what's good is we, as we said, we can come back stronger and better, and, you know, happy to know that we're a much needed and appreciated industry, aren't we? So, I mean, that's been very positive indeed. Anything else you want to add, Phil? Because I know you have the ear of a lot of stylists and a lot of salons, and you are very, very much day to day involved with a vast number of people. Anything else that you might share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's it's a controversial sort of subject for all of us within the industry, but there seems to be an awful lot of sort of people doing hair. And that again has come up in terms of us speaking to salon owners who were trying to book clients in, and these are loyal clients. These are not just clients that sort of visit occasionally. And you know, some of these clients have said, you know, I've had my hair done, you know, I've had a mobile hairdresser, or whatever terminology we use. And I just wanted to mention that and to ask you know, Linda and Alan and Karine's opinion on that.
I think it's outrageous that hairdressers are out there doing that. I took a stance at the very beginning, which was a little controversial, but here's my thinking on it: is when a client wants their hair done, they will do anything to get it done. So I provided a service on my website showing them how we could color your hair yourself and how you can trim your fringe, and the rest we can do when we get back to the salon. And I know a lot of people in the industry were like, oh, that's really bad. They're going to go somewhere and they're going to buy a crappy box color, whereas I set up with the company Organic Color Systems, have a assisted tint that's 100% natural. And so I would match as near as possible to, obviously it's not the same as what we get in the salon, and we mix 3 or 4 colors. And I think that's kept the loyalty within the salon, because so many people out there saying, oh, my client's been to a mobile hairdresser, or this, that, or the other. And I think if you provide that service for them now and in the beginning, because we've still got 4 weeks at least to go, it's helping them. You know, we're helping them along the way, and we're not just saying, no, we're not doing it because we're not supposed to, because somebody else is going to jump in there. It's a dog world, and that was something I knew would happen. So no, don't go to somebody else, and help your client as much as you can.
What would you say, Linda and Alan, to that?
Yeah, well, we've just taken a very strong stance not to do anything. I suppose it's we've got so many clients. There's maybe, I don't know, nearly 50,000 on the database. So we had to take a stance that they just really do have to wait until we come back. We've been doing stuff on social media to help, you know, how to cover roots, you know, how to use maybe like a spray on, how to style your hair. But that's been our stance. It's been just a, you know,
and you stuck
which
with
is
it.
difficult,
I think that's the thing.
because clients, we're saying we're trying to help you, but there's a line, and we can't cross that line, and it makes it difficult if there are other salons making up tint and sending them out. You know, they're saying, well, my friend's salon has sent them, like, you know, tubes of tint in a mixing bowl and a brush, and you're thinking, oh, because it makes us look as if we're not being helpful to the client. It's difficult. It is so you know, you really think we should be helping the client. What can we do to help? But I think we're just too big to do sort of one-to-ones, and you know, and we had to make a stance on it, and it was quite a harsh stance, I suppose.
We just took it concerns me because of the reputation of the academy and the reputation of the brand as well. That we're just not insured to do it. If you're sending out professional colour, and it's black and it's white and it's easy to understand, it would be great to be able to help them. And latterly we have We work with Schwarzkopf, and we have done semi-permanent, chroma, and, and foam colours, which we've made available online. But it's a stance, as Linda said at the beginning, we just decided, no, we're not doing it. And if people want to go and have a home hairdresser, then so be it. You're never going to stop it.
And the other thing, Alan, is you're never going to...
I'm sorry, I was going to say we get emails asking for one of our special appointments, and they're all inverted in brackets. Can I have one of your special appointments, please?
Really? How funny. That's how people... I think the thing is, you made a stand and you stuck to it, and you've been consistent throughout. You had to take that decision. One other thing I'm going to ask you all about, because Caroline has messaged us and said, this goes to things like... Practicalities magazines, refreshment. She says, do clients have to put their handbags, because every woman will have a handbag still, into a bag on arrival to the salon? Do either bring their own bag, or is the salon, what are you suggesting when women, I'm supposed perhaps men come in with bags too, but when they come in with their bags, what are you going to do about that? Where do they put their bags? Obviously, the current climate we've got, one assumes they're not going to come in with coats, maybe, but what about all that kind of paraphernalia? What's going to happen with that?
That's a really good question, and it's something that we're debating as a team at the moment, because there's no guidelines on anywhere. So if you think about it, you go into the supermarket, you're touching a trolley, all right, you've got gloves on or things like that. So how do we manage this one? Do we have a separate section? So we've got like 3 areas where you could hang a coat if you do have one. I think at the moment we're sort of like, well, you keep your handbag with you all the way through the service, and it becomes under your gown or heart view, and we request that you don't bring too much in.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of debate on how we do it. It did open up with I had a Zoom party with some friends, and we'd had a couple of glasses of champagne, and it's like, well, then you think, for everything that you do, you go to the supermarket, you bought some fruit, who's packed that fruit? Was it wiped down after that? Do you wipe it down when you go home? I mean, it's like it's never ending. It's infinity on who's touched what and where, and where do we draw the line between it as well?
What are you doing, Karine, in terms of refreshments? How are you offering none, or with your eco credentials, how are you feeling about bottled water, which some people are saying, I mean, that would go against the grain there. It seems, as someone said a few weeks ago, it's like you said, Karine, with the perspex, maybe, to not have any refreshments and you're in for a really long service, it's a bit grim, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it might be safer, but I don't think I'd want to sit in a salon for a few hours and not have, a drink. So what are you doing about that?
Well, because we're eco, we've taken lots of different actions prior, years ago we did that. So we have a filter, a Brita filter to service the drinks and things like that. So something I've been watching just on London Fields near where I live is that the pubs and that are open and they're serving takeaways.
Yeah, they are. Through the windows. Yeah, a lot.
Just watching it, right. Do we ask our client to bring in their own cup or glass that they'll take away with them? And because we offer a glass of champagne or we offer a coffee, and we fill it up into this cup. But then it opens the other thing, then we're touching it. Is that the right thing to do? It's so it's something we're still debating, and I am looking at what's happening out there at the moment, how coffee places are open. So what would make that any different to us? That we make a coffee, we have a machine that's all, you don't have to touch it. So it's interesting. It's interesting where we go with it. I would like to be able to still offer our clients a drink. I think that's important, but it's the health and safety. What are there going to be guidelines, or do we just follow what other people are doing and make sure we do it as safe as possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make an interesting point, and I'm sure Linda and Alan, Glasgow, Edinburgh, some of your big cities, very interesting when you go to London, how, pubs, cafes are running, as they have to, and obviously there was the situation where if you don't use the beer, it's all going to be just chucked away, it will go off. So people have found ways that obviously the public feel comfortable with, And I think that's quite an interesting thing, because we talked about maybe looking at how salons in other countries are operating, but as you say, and in the cities, probably more of an indicator, what other businesses are doing that is working as a model that we can maybe take from. You know, just some clues, as you say, Karine. The pubs in London are, and it's not well conservative.
In Australia, because that's where I'm from, and they're pretty much all open again now, yeah, with restrictions. But hair salons shut for 3 weeks only. And my mum, who is where I get it all from, the vanity, she what they could only have a 35 minutes or 45 minutes in the salon at any one point. It was something like that. So she has a colour, so she had to go in with her hair washed. They re-washed it, cut it, they put the colour on, and then they send her home. So that was really interesting, and a lot of salons are doing that. But then, you know, speaking to Jane Wild at Wild Hair in Sydney, they've put perspex up in between, and so everybody's doing something slightly different. And I don't know if Ben Madel in Germany, but he's just one person, and it was interesting. I had a quick chat with him about what he was doing, and it was one in, one out. And so I think the best thing is any salon owner, if you know anybody that's out there, get as much information, pull it together, and then let's make sensible decisions ourselves.
I mean, we talk about drinks, but Fiona Johnston has messaged, and this is a good point. How can the client drink without removing your mask?
Yeah.
You know,
they can't, can they? That's one solved. That's one thing solved, isn't it?
No, they can't. I mean, and I guess clients are going to be. We don't know that. I mean, our clients going to. I mean, I worry as a non-hairdresser and someone who goes into the salon. I mean, you worry if I put my reading glasses on when my colour's on. I'm paranoid that I'm going to get a nasty line here with the colour. Now, if they've got the mask on and I'm getting a colour, you know, I mean, I would just. To me, I'm concerned as a trusty client that it would impede the you know, how good my colour's going to be. You know, please assure me that if I'm wearing a
surgical
mask,
tape,
right? No. So I will still
surgical tape.
Right. So it's not going to come in here and
you get your colour done.
So the colour will still be. I mean, it's things like that. You know, I mean. You think like that as a client.
You've had to think it through.
I'm paying a lot of money. I want the same level. I don't want to have to use all this. Of course, safety is important. I want a really great job on my hair as well. You know, I know to weigh up life versus vanity, but you know, but that's good. That's good. That's a good thing to know. The surgical tape's excellent. Yeah, I mean that's really good. And as Caroline said, now I'm that's a bit like me, but Linda, you've reassured me with the tape. What if a client won't wear a mask? I mean, you know, that was me before. I was going to say no to a mask because of my colour, but he says here, you know, I can imagine with the general public that some people will come up with all sorts of reasons why they cannot wear a mask, and to them those reasons are legitimate. Some people might have an anxiety about breathing or claustrophobia. You know, you might find that somebody would say, I just can't. I guess you have to take the decision then to say, well, we can't actually, you know, work with you because this is our statutory legislation or whatever. This is the stance we've taken. But I mean, have you thought about how you'll cope if clients don't want to comply with some of the things you've chosen to put in place?
Yeah, we've discussed that, and I think when we email, we're gonna have a standard set email out with the guidelines to the salon, and to book an appointment you have to. And we're gonna actually, I forgot to mention this earlier, we're gonna take payment up front for the time, and so then the extras will add on at the end, so they can just touch. But if you don't comply, you know, you don't want to comply, then don't book the appointment. The safety of our team is just as important as the safety of the client, and that's the only stand.
That's really good. Yeah.
And I think also there's going to be a lot of examples that we encounter in terms of, you know, clients not wanting to wear a mask, or, you know, for the salons that have decided to take a client's temperature, you know, if the temperature is over a certain reading, what are you then going to turn the client away? There's so many things that I think that a lot of salons haven't thought of, and they're kind of underestimating the issues that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But I suppose, Phil, the thing is, I mean, it's logical, but it's worth saying, as Karine says, you either comply with what we have to exercise, as we said the whole way through, common sense, and it's an independent judgment. And if you're not going to comply with what we've said for the safety of our other clients and our team, then don't come and visit us.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think, as we mentioned on the previous webinar, I think loyalty is very much going to be challenged. I think client loyalty is going to be challenged over the coming months.
Yeah, I'm just having a look here. The masks they wear is protect us, so we are wearing ours to protect them. Yeah, that's what a lot of people agree with the panelists there. That you know, we're wearing masks as well to protect ourselves. We can't forget ourselves in this, you know, and you know, we're wearing ours to protect us and to protect them. So quite honestly, if they want an appointment, they have to comply with what we've decided. And I don't think, and as you said, Phil, yeah, I guess loyalty is going to be challenged up to some extent, but if you do lose some clients, it's like Linda and Alan said about the stance they took on no compromise with the home hair. You know, you make your choice and you stick with it, and you be consistent in your message. And if some people are going to say, I don't agree, you'll just have to put that down to sort of natural wastage.
I think it's as well as if you think when you fly, you know, we have to put our bag through security. We have to go through the machine. You don't do that, you don't get through. You have to put your seatbelt on to take off. So, you know, we just do it because that's what's expected of us. Where, you know, that's the way we have to be in the salon. This is our company's stance on it, and this, if you want to come here, this is what you have to do.
Yeah, I think that's
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered. We've definitely, unlike our last webinar, when we felt like we cheated some of the lovely people that had come on board, we've definitely addressed pretty much every question we've had asked. So thank you so much, all of you, for staying the extra time so that we very much wanted to feel that we did address all the questions people had. And I think we've done that today. I think key things that have come out of this, you know, we will be sharing for all the questions that have been asked. We will be sharing your information, Linda and Alan, on that fantastic mental health support that you've got in place. And we'll talk to Linda and Alan afterwards, and we'll put that on the Good Salon Guide website. We continue to work a lot with Karine, and always have and always will, with our eco-credentials. So we will be continuing to do that. We've got another webinar in a couple of weeks, and I'm glad we all talked about this, looking at what we're going to be doing in the kind of couple of weeks before we go back into salon, specifically a campaign that we've got a Good Salon Guide about getting mentally and physically fit to get back to the salon. A bit like a Joe Wicks, Joe Wicks for stylists. Really hot tips on, you know, physically preparing yourself through diet, bit of yoga, bit of meditation, if that's your bag. Just generally good back practice, how you can encourage staff to kind of get in the zone now. You know, if you've got young stylists, I've got teenagers, you know, you can't be getting out of bed at 4 p.m. the week before you go back to the salon. You know, you've got to build up to being fit in mind and body to do, as we're talking about, a lot of hours and a lot of work. And if you haven't been doing that for like however many weeks we're in now, it's quite a shock to your system. So I think I'm really glad to hear that you're all working on that, because it's something that we've been putting a lot of work in to try and compile some good videos and stuff. So I'm sure we'll all touch base again, and I'm hugely, I think I can speak for Gareth in saying thank you so much for your time. I've really, and I haven't met you, Linda and Alan, before, and it's been an absolute pleasure. a real pleasure, and great to have some input from Scotland. You know, fantastic. I hope it's been useful. Well, it has, because as I say, we've had a lot of response to your insight into the mental well-being. So that's been hugely well received. So thanks everybody, and let's all keep at it, and we'll all come back. All right.
Thanks for inviting me. Good luck.
Thank you, Karine, as ever. Fantastic. Thanks, Phil. Great to see you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Linda. Bye, Phil.
Oh, that sounded good. Sorry about the coffee.
That's all right.
Yeah, right.
One minute.
Did I?